it's wild. That being said, permanent finance money for 5 years is around 520, for 7 years is 550, and 10 years is 558. Now, I talk about those short-term rates, and I need to move on, but and I'll do that. But the game today is trying to take condominiums, rent them for 5 years, and then hope that the world comes back. So people are bombarding us for 5 years to 7 years, but 7 years is the sweet spot. All right, let me move on. Affordable financing. It's all about the equity. The low-income housing tax credit market, as Michael said, is absolutely dead. Syndicators are dropping by the wayside, so that the money that is needed to subsidize these projects through the sale of these credits has just vanished overnight. Fannie and Freddie are out of the market. They used to be a big buyer. Our bank, other banks are out of the market. Only in certain targeted, where banks have certain Community Redevelopment Act needs, is there some activity. But nevertheless, the pricing for these credits has gone from a historic high a year ago of 105 cents for the credit down to, if you can get it, 60 cents, which is why the legislation that Mike talked about might, and there's some issues that get into the help. Underwriting standards, again, underwriting standards are tightening. Used to do a deal at a 110 debt coverage, 40-year amortization. We're now at 120, 30 years. People would do floating rate deals where you sell your bonds in the market, tax-exempt bonds in the marketplace. You've got to buy interest rate caps. Those cap prices have gone from 50 basis points up to 125 basis points. The underwriting rates for these deals has skyrocketed up to 7% in order to figure it out, even though the actual underlying interest rate is around 5%. Fixed rate finance, the new construction, going from new construction to permanent is banks just aren't making, we're just not, unless we're in a CRA area, to do construction financing, even if we've got some government assistance, is still prohibitively expensive. Bank pricing for letters of credit to credit against the bonds or spreads on that money is anywhere from 250 up to 500 basis points, making it just terribly hard to pencil. There's still a disconnect between buyers and sellers of land and costs, so that in order to build, especially in this area, to build projects, you can't make deals pencil. They just don't pencil today.
And finally, for the beginning,
I want to see what this federal stimulus package is all about. That's the only answer. See ya.
Okay. How long will it take things to shake out, just in your prediction?
I think that there's a sort of a kickstart, right? You've got people that have, if prices start to make sense, then people are going to come back. You're 24 months.
Okay, great. Hold that thought.
Yeah. And I'm an optimist.
Dr. Kroll, thank
it's
you.
April 1st. We can get away with saying whatever we want about
That's
when
exactly
we're getting out of this. Okay, I need the next set of slides, please. Which we may or may not get. Marty, are you back there with the slides? Thank you. And the buzzer even works here. So what I'm going to do is lay out the questions. John already gave you the beginning of an introduction to what's going on in California and in different parts of the state. We all know that home prices are down, but as you'll see in a minute, how much they're down really depends on what kind of measure you're using and where you're looking. Sales were down precipitously, but they've also risen very sharply in the last 2 months. And what does that mean? Will that help to put a floor on the downturn in prices? Building activity is also down very sharply, and that may help to keep prices from falling any further for the moment, but when will that return? And then the economic downturn in California has been really hard to measure because the state only last week re-benchmarked their numbers, but even still it shows that the downturn really primarily was in the construction and real estate side until recently, but now we're certainly feeling the contagion. The question is, how bad is it? How bad will it get? And how can we even know when we can't trust the numbers we're getting? And finally, the impact varies a lot by location, and I'll just show you a few numbers on that. So no economist who's talking in front of a group can resist having this slide in their deck of cards, as you saw from John, but mine's a little different. This one is the median price, which is based, of course, very dependent on whatever mix of homes is selling, and for the most recent numbers, is very much influenced by the number of foreclosure sales going on. But if you look at these lines, compare San Francisco's at the top, that's the whole Bay Area, California in the middle, and the US at the bottom. And San Francisco looks like it's gone through an even worse downturn than either California or the US, with prices down below their 2000 level based on median prices. That, of course, is not what's happened to the actual price of an individual home in most parts of the Bay Area. But as you can see, the prices coming down this far have certainly helped to generate the increase in sales activity that we're seeing. And it's up in California to about the level it was at its peak, with both home buyers coming in and also many investors, people who are coming in who want to own the home, and also many investors who are thinking this is low, and California prices almost always go up, don't they? So here are a couple of different, the numbers that John showed you were the same home sale numbers from the Case-Shiller Index, which measures virtually all the market from foreclosure sales to the very top of the market. The Orfeo Index just measures what's happening with the Fannie and Freddie loans, which are, for California, kind of the middle of the market. For the Bay Area, probably the second and third quintiles of the market. Not even that, missing most of the top half and the bottom as well. So if you're looking at that part of the market in the Bay Area, it's really been much more stable than either the Case-Shiller numbers or the median home prices would suggest. And by those numbers, those homes have maybe dropped back to 2005 values rather than 2000 values. It's a pretty big difference in what's happening. So it depends very much on what measure you're looking at. It's not that any of these are right or wrong, but you have to know what they're measuring. And then if you look at what's happening in different parts of the region, this slide is a little bit misnamed. It's really the change in the price per square foot in different zip code areas. So the basic point of this slide is that the higher price areas have seen either much less in the way of price declines on the order of 10%, or in fact in some parts of San Francisco, they've seen a price increase in the last year. That may not hold up going forward, but certainly the biggest price losses have been in the places that had the most subprime housing, the most foreclosures right now. Now, when you're talking about affordable housing, of course, home ownership is only one part of the story, and apartment rents are an important part too. And there's been much less of an adjustment. And in fact, for about the first 3 quarters of last year, rents continued to rise, and they only really began to turn down in the 4th quarter of last year, and of course, much less precipitously than home prices did. So for the portion of the market that's depending on rental for affordable housing, there hasn't been that much improvement yet. Of course, we just heard that the condos are going to become rentals for the next 5 years. So that, I mean, there will be some filtering down, but how much it will affect the bottom end when nothing new is coming on, it's doubtful.